Hi friends, welcome to Startup Chuck. Now, I have always wanted a sauna, and so I've decided I'm just going to build one. I've got a perfect little spot in my basement shop down in the corner. It's right next to a sub panel, so I don't have to do a super long electrical run. And with the price of wire these days, I'm happy because I think 6-gauge wire, if it's got 3 conductors, is probably like $7 a foot or something. So either way, I'm going to build a tiny little sauna. I've never done it before. It's going to be a little bit smaller than 4x8, and we'll just see how it goes. So please watch along, and I'm probably going to learn a bunch and come back later on with some lessons learned, and we'll see how things go. All right, let's get started. The first step was to remove any other walls or material I had, and then get onto the framing and anchor the framing to the floor and get the general shape all settled. Alright, so we got everything here framed, which is great. And now we got electrical in here as well. And we're going to now just start insulating. I've got lots of piles of insulation here. And so it's going to go on the walls and it's going to go on the ceiling. Should be a good time. Just finished getting all the rock wool insulation in. It's looking really, really good. I'm super happy. I love using rock wool over fiberglass because 1, it's way more fire resistant. 2, insulate's great and you don't get all crazy itchy. You still get a little itchy, but not nearly as bad. Either way, let's go take a look at the inside of this thing. Let's use the low light mode in this camera. Oh yeah, does a great job. Yep, so I'm gonna have one bench light behind the bench light down there, another behind the bench light down here, an outlet if I need it for whatever, light switch, and then motorized venting down below down there. You can't see it, but there's a thermocouple down there for the fan. Heater's gonna go over here, which is why I've got the 6.3 run. It's going to go into a control box and then it's going to go into the heater. And then this is where my fan controller is going to go with a low voltage box. And then down here is where I'm going to put the fan module in the back corner there. It's going to go 90 up, fan, and then vent out the top, and I'll build a little box for it. So there'll be an outlet down there too with a new work box. I'm pretty excited. Can't wait to get the foil insulation on the inside of this thing, and then the wood, and it's gonna be awesome. Got my foil, so now I can put it around and line the inside. Before I do that, I need to get this 15-foot thermocouple mounted, and it's essentially gonna go from the control panel down here, and then up over to the back wall. You wanna have your temperature control sensor on the opposite wall and at the ceiling height, like 6 inches below the ceiling, so that when I set like 180 degrees, then that's where it's sensing. Basically a person's head height who's on the top bench. So we're gonna go mount that up, and then I'm going to staple the foil in, and then we can start laying out the wood. Also forgot I need to tie in the electrical down here. I'm gonna turn off the power and then splice in the electrical for the lights, and get that done before I foil everything else in. And then essentially, while we're in here, thermocouple is going to go from here up, over, down, and then be over there 6 inches, and then we're going to have an upper bench, lower bench. Upper bench is going to continue the whole way across but not wrap right. Lower bench is going to go across and then wrap right, and then that way if I want, I can sit in the corner with my back in the corner and relax, have my legs extend, something like that. We'll see. One thing that I really love are Wagos. If you don't use Wagos and you're still using wire nuts, just give them a try. The biggest risk is if you don't insert the wire all the way. You could have a potential risk there, but that's kind of the same thing if you do a bad wire nut. Wagos are pretty awesome. They're basically just super sweet flick lock connectors. Wagos are pretty awesome because you can pretty much use them one-handed and shove your wire, you know, up in there and then just flick the lever shut. And then you've got a sweet connection, and they're so much easier than wire nuts. So definitely try Wagos out if you ever got to splice in some connections. And they make all different versions. This is a 3-up. They make a 5. They make, you know, a whole bunch of different versions. So definitely get some. Now in my sub panel here, I'm using 6.3. So I've got essentially, you know, a red, a black, and a white. And if don't really need to have the white, you could do 6.2, but I have it in there just in case in my enclosure box where I'm going to do all the electronics. Maybe I'll need 120, and so this will just give me that opportunity. Woo, we got this thing all foiled in. It's really quiet in here. It's super nice. And we tape the seams up at the top and down here in the bottom, middle section. All right, let's line this with wood. All right, 5.5 hours later, I now have all of the woodwork done except for the benches inside of the sauna. It turned out really nice. I'm super happy about it. And got 2 lights here. There's one. Got another one down here. And a little outlet switch here, or light switch. And then I got the trim done on the door here, and it turned out really nice. So I'm pretty happy with how the trim turned out on this door. Next step, I'm going to get the heater in the corner here, and then work on the outside wood, which I still have not done yet, and benches, and then control panel, and done. Very exciting. Yeah, still haven't gotten the outside done at all yet on this guy, so that's one thing I need to do. Controller for the fan needs to go in, and the fan, and then I get to put this 50 amp GFCI breaker in, and I love working in a live panel, so that'll be super fun to do. Supposedly on these cheap Vevor sauna heaters, a lot of people complain that the heating elements get so hot that they melt these rubber booties that go over the crimp connectors. And so I just slid all 6 of the crimp connectors down so they're not next to the, or I guess the crimp connector booties I slid down so they're not next to the crimp connectors and get too hot. There's also 2 underneath these insulators here. I don't know why only 2 of these have this insulator and these other 2 don't. I think that's kind of weird. But either way, I had to slide off these insulators and then pull off the rubber gasket. And hopefully that'll keep them from just charring and getting black and smoking up my entire sauna. We'll find out. I got the outside done. I'm finishing up getting the panel here all finished. The control box is going to go right here, down just below the panel, but not in the way of the panel. You got to keep 3-foot clearance. And which is why I didn't put it on this wall just to the right of it, which I'd love to do, but then I don't have enough clearance for the panel for code. So anyways, I've got the fan controller mounted on the outside here. And if we look on the inside, got the lights working now. These are going to be my under bench lights. Got my vent cover down there. And the cool thing about this one is you can screw it to be bigger or smaller. This is the fan's pressure, temperature, humidity sensor. So that guy's just got a little plug on it to keep it from getting dusty. I've got to put the cover on that guy. Got the heater in. The heater is going to get hooked up with some Soow cable, and then goes into a junction box down there where I will hook it up to the NM63 cable, but the 6.3 cable isn't specified for the heat in this room, but the SOO cable is, SOOW cable is, and so that's why I'm going to switch it out right here. It'll go from that junction box then into the heater here. And then I have one more vent to put in up here for cold air to come in. And otherwise though, this room is all done and looks just absolutely beautiful. All right, so I'm finishing up the electrical here, and in order to meet code, I can't have NM cable running into the sauna because it's not rated for exposed areas. It has to be in a wall. And I can't have THHN cable just running unless it's in conduit. And so instead, I got some SOO double cable, and I've got a high temp nylon grommet. And essentially, I'm just going to have the SOOW cable hooked up to the NM63 cable. And then this short, like 12-inch section is go from the wall basically to the heater, and that'll keep me code compliant. So I don't know, double check with an electrician, but based on my reading of the code, that's what I understood will work. And yeah, I got these big crimp lugs on here. Well, not crimp really. They are like set screw lugs. So I'm gonna hook them up, heat shrink them, wrap them in tons of electrical tape, and get this thing mounted. All right, so we got our AC Infinity fan mounted, and I'm gonna build a little box around it, and then end up putting in, this little grate here. But for now, it's mounted back there, and it's gonna do just fine. So we're gonna program the controller here so that when the temperature gets above 100 Fahrenheit or so, then it'll kick in the fan, because then it'll know that the sauna's on. It's unlikely it's ever going to get much hotter than 60 down here normally, so I'm not too worried about it kicking on during the summer or anything like that. So, yep, we'll program this guy up. Right now I can just turn it on if I want, turn it off, but soon enough I'll have it set up. Plus I can monitor this online, and it's nice because it'll show me the humidity in there and the temperature and whatnot. All right, so I got my control box here done, and it's pretty awesome. Turn the sauna on down in the panel, and then I've got my Wi-Fi breaker right here, and I can press the button to turn it on manually. Or if I want, I can yell, "Alexa, turn on the sauna."
Okay.
Magic! Alexa, turn off the sauna.
Okay.
And so right here, I've got my temperature controller that I'll have set to whatever temperature I want with the thermocouple mounted up near the ceiling. And then this guy's cool because it will allow me to see how much power I'm using whenever this thing's running, so I can get an idea of how much it's costing me. And so, yeah, this guy's all finished. Seal it right up. Ta-da! I'm super duper excited. I was at Home Depot and they had cedar 2x4s for $1.25 a linear foot, which is amazing. $10 for a cedar 2x4. It smells so good. And I did a pretty good job. I sorted through probably, 100 boards, and I found 20 that were clear. And so they don't have any knots, and so they're gonna be awesome for the benches. Look out how nice these guys look. Oh, so beautiful. They got some band marking, but I'm just gonna plane it down and it'll go right away. So I didn't record a ton of video because it was freezing outside. Winter finally came, and I just didn't have the camera running. It was gonna die pretty quick. But I got the benches framed out here, and I got all of the pieces cut to length down here. So the next step is going to be sanding them down, planing down the corners or routing them so that they're not sharp on the corners. And then basically they'll get mounted and then screwed into the end so that there's no fasteners facing up. Because the last thing you want is a metal fastener that you could accidentally touch when it's 160 degrees. That would really bum you out. Put a little pock mark on you. And that's also why they don't want any knots in the cedar boards. So that way you don't end up getting any branding knots, little hot spots on your seat when you're sitting down. All right, let's go look inside the sauna and I'll show you kind of the plan that I am imagining. Okay, so in the sauna right now, we've got, we're going to mount these 24-inch horizontal supports into the wall, about 44 inches from the ceiling. And then we'll have a couple of supports kind of underneath, supporting it under the wall, like triangular wooden brackets that I make. But one of those on the left, one of those on the right. And so that'll be the top 44-inch bench. And then below that, I've got a horizontal 24-inch bench that'll go from here to here. And then like a really shallow 18-inch one that'll go just kind of as a step between that horizontal lower bench and the wall. And then I'm going to need to build some sort of like safety space keeping bracket around the heater. Now let's look at this heater. Okay, now something to note about this Vivor heater is that they give you these crimps on the right. There's no way that handles 6-gauge cable enough for 50 amps. And then on the left is a legit 6-gauge crimp that I had bought that you're going to need a serious heavy-duty crimper for. So I would highly recommend do not use this crimp that they give you. This terminal spade crimp is just not rated for the size wire that you need. I don't even know how you do it. Get something legit. You're going to probably have to shave off one of the sides in order to make it fit into the mount. There's the mount right there, but you can see that it almost fits. I just got to shave it down a hair, which I'll do, and then it'll be fine. I got my sauna stones here, and the first thing you want to do is rinse these off because they are just covered in dust. And you don't want that dust inside your heater and then just going all over your floor or who knows what when you add some water on there. Nonetheless, wash them off, let them dry out, and then stick them in your sauna. So we're just gonna throw them all into this sink and then fill the sink up and wash them around. Probably not gonna use soap or anything, but either way, I want to rinse them off a bit. All right, so my wife is going to kill me because I just set the smoke alarms off in the entire house. I've got 14 smoke alarms, and so it is deafening when they all go off. I forgot I had the basement one interconnected, and I was just heating up the heater here, and it started baking off all of the manufacturing oil. And so then it filled my basement shop with, I guess, oil smoke. Either way, yeah, maybe heat this thing up with 110 volts outside first, and then maybe burn it off outside before you decide to completely smoke it out your house. Because if your sauna's outside, that's one thing, but mine is in my lower basement shop. And so, yeah, I'm in the doghouse, or at least in a sauna right now. So we'll see. It feels good though. Like it heated up nicely, and I'm definitely enjoying that nice little warmth. So maybe I'll cycle it back on, get it hot, try and get all this burnt out, start putting rocks in there, and I don't know, bake everything out of here once or twice. Woo, this thing's nice and hot. Now it was time to finish the benches. First pass on the planer, and it's close. Needs a few more passes. Planer is definitely the way to go, though. It also makes doing these corners real easy. The bench design was influenced by the Sauna Times website, and so based on some photos I had, I was able to roughly piece together what they had done. Initially, I really wanted to have a upper and lower bench, but I decided instead of having smaller benches to make the upper one wider, 24-inch, so that I could actually lay down on it. And I'm pretty happy I did that. And since there's not a ton of people in this sauna, it's not really a big deal. Now every sauna needs a door, and so I just roughly pieced mine together from tongue and groove I had left over, and then I actually bought a glass tabletop to use as the window. Now you could get a regular window that is 2-pane and sealed in between, that get a little more insulation, but since this was just an inside door, I didn't really care too much about that. And so yeah, I just kind of winged it and ended up with a pretty nice door. For the handle, I just made some spacers and then added a piece of wood, and essentially that was my handle. It worked really nice. Before we start the inaugural heating up of the sauna, I'm gonna grab this and keep it near me because who knows, it seems like a smart idea. Here's our door beautifully installed, and this guy is all set up right here. It'll kick on when it hits 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Come over here, we can say, Alexa, turn on the sauna.
Got it.
Woo, there it goes. And it's already starting to heat up in there. 61. $62. I finally finished the sauna. It's all done and it looks beautiful. Let me show you in. I got these sweet little handles I've made with a little printed spacer in the back there. You can open it right up. I added this cool little ball detent here, so that way it'll hold the door shut. There's a really nice curtain in case you want to not have to see the bright room when you're in there. All right, let's go inside. So we're going to start off with, I made this nice little stool and it turned out beautiful. That helps to get up onto the benches. I've got one lower bench here that you can either sit on if you want to be a little lower. My kids get hot. And then I've got an upper bench. And the nice thing is you can actually sit with your back on the upper bench against the wall, and then your feet drape over, and it's really comfy. I ended up getting this cool little 15-minute hourglass. That's been nice. Here's my red light therapy system. And this thing is crazy bright. Lights up the whole room. Super nice. And I've had it up to 200 degrees in here and it hasn't seemed to affect it so far. That just runs to a breaker, or not a breaker. That just runs to an outlet that is down underneath the bench down here, where you can see I've got that light and the vent and that outlet. It stays really cool down here, like 70 degrees. Let's see here. Benches, basically just covered in paraffin oil, and they turned out super awesome. The instructions for these are actually from Sauna Times. I took some images that he had and then kind of figured out how he made them, and it's just 2x4s of essentially cedar, and I looked for ones that didn't have any knots, so there's no knots on any of this, which is great. And then I've got my heater, and I got my guard around the heater with the required air gap surrounding it. And then I made this sweet little footstool here so that I can use that to hop up onto the bench whenever I need to. I am just super happy in here, and it is super warm. I can come over here and I can get water out, throw it on the rocks. Yeah. I also took the infrared camera and I went around and I started looking for basically hot spots and cold spots, and looked at the back wall and saw how hot the back wall gets. You know, see if I have any concerns about things overheating or starting a fire or anything like that. And everything looked really good. So, oh, there's the vent. It is just all right. Yeah, don't touch those rocks at 626 degrees. I'll put links up for everything, and you can basically, you know, get a link to all the different things that I bought here. But all total, I spent less than $2,200 building this whole sauna out, which I'm pretty happy. And most of it was basically, you know, the cheap heater saved me $1,000, and the wood from Home Depot was significantly less expensive getting the cedar from there, and using white pine instead of cedar for the walls. And if you're worried about it not smelling enough like cedar, the benches alone smell like tons of cedar. It is almost nauseating with cedar. And so, big recommend to just use cheaper white pine for the walls and then use cedar for the benches. And overall, big success. So 24-hour-ish sauna. I kind of lost track of the hours at the last moment, but about 24 hours of building time for a 4x8 sauna with a pretty low ceiling. And yeah, so far it's turned out great. Some other things that you definitely want to make sure you do. You want to make sure that you wash the rocks really well, because it'll smell like burning dust when you start this thing up. I also mentioned that, you know, the seasoning on the heater is going to need to get burned off. So if you can safely do it, I would say heat your heater up outside with like a temporary cable. Just burn off all of that nasty, nasty stuff before you install it, if it's going to be an interior sauna and you can't just like open a door. Like I can't just open a door or window here to the outside and let it vent out. It vents into my basement and then sets off the smoke alarm for the entire house. So definitely watch out for that. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else other than I love it. It's great. Build a sauna and enjoy it. They're great. And make sure you follow all the setback rules for keeping things fire safe. Thank you guys. Please like and please subscribe. And I'm going to be making a sweet fastener-free cedar like board mat also to go in here, and I'll be posting that video later. So please subscribe if you would like to see how that mat is built, and also check out any of my other videos. All right, thanks. Take care.